Howdy! Welcome to Aspire Mountain Academy. I'm Professor Curtis, your instructor for this course in Introductory Statistics. In less than 10 minutes, this video describes some important considerations when designing statistical experiments. Let's get started. In the previous mini-lecture, we discussed different features of good experiment design, as well as the different types of statistical experiments. Now we're going to discuss different considerations you want to have when designing your statistical experiment. One such aspect is called confounding. Confounding is where you have a situation and you're not able to distinguish between the effects of different factors. This is not an experimental design per se. Rather, it's an effect of having a poor experimental design. Ideally, your statistical analysis, you want to be able to say that a certain independent variable is the cause of an effect or an outcome. But confounding occurs when you have other variables that are influencing the relationship between the variable that you would like to say is the cause and the other variable that you would like to say is the outcome. When you have those other influences, you have what's called confounding. And of course, that makes it difficult to establish the relationship you're exploring between your chosen variable and the outcome. So you want to try to plan your experiment to avoid confounding. How you do that is something we'll discuss in future mini-lectures. Now, you also want to minimize the presence of experimental error as much as possible. I say as much as possible because no matter how well you plan and design your experiment, you're going to have to deal with error. We're living in an imperfect world here, and in an imperfect world, you're always going to have some amount of error. What you want to do is try to minimize the error as much as possible. And the first step to minimizing error is understanding the different types of error. The first type of error is what's called sampling error. Okay, sampling error is essentially the difference between the result coming from your sample and the result you would have if you had a census where you're taking data from every member of the population. There's always going to be some difference here because the chance that a sample is exactly, completely characteristic of its population is so ridiculously low that it's practically impossible. There's always going to be some divergence. And those differences, what statisticians call chance sample fluctuations, produce sampling error. Now, sampling error is the most difficult type of error to eliminate or minimize because it's just in the nature of taking a sample. Okay, you can't completely eliminate the disparity of characteristics between the sample and the population because we live in an imperfect world. There always comes a point where you do what you can based on the resources of time, money, and manpower you have available, and then after that's expended, you just have to live with whatever sampling error you have. Usually that manifests itself in a statement like, okay, we have this bit of error here, so we report that with our results, and keep in mind that it may limit the applicability of our conclusions. Now, in addition to sampling error, you have what's called non-sampling error. And this basically deals with the way you manage your data. You might have selected a biased sample. Perhaps you were, using a convenience sample. Or perhaps you were using a defective measurement device. Maybe it's a piece of equipment that wasn't properly calibrated. Or hey, maybe it's a straight edge where, part of the edge is worn, so it's not exactly flush with a level surface. There's a host of different ways your instrument could provide a defective measurement. That's why, when I was working as a materials engineer in the lab, part of my job was to check the calibration on all the measurement instruments we had. Every so often, I'd have to go through these calibration exercises to make sure that everything was in tip-top shape, and that any deviations from the standards we used were within acceptable tolerances. Now, another way to get non-sampling error can occur through copying the data between different records. This doesn't happen as much anymore with everything being electronic and connected via the internet, but in the old days, you'd have maybe some field guy who goes to a site, collects data, and then someone in the office would take those paper records and transfer the data from the paper into some computer database, say a spreadsheet. Today, the field guy would have a device like a tablet that would be connected to the database in the office via the internet. So there's no transcription error because the field guy is supplying data to the database in the office from the field. But not everyone has joined the 21st century, though. So keep it in mind, you're looking for ways to minimize your non-sampling error. Because this type of error comes from how you manage your data, it's easier to eliminate this type of error than it is sampling error. Of course, the easiest type of error to eliminate is what's called non-random sampling error. This occurs when you choose a sampling method that's not random. We've already discussed some sampling methods that lack randomness, like convenience sampling and voluntary response. Now, this type of error is the easiest to eliminate because you just design your experiment with a more effective sampling method. So these are the different types of error we see in statistical experiments. No matter what you do, you're always going to have some error, but you can improve the quality of your analysis when you work to minimize your error as much as possible. Let's conclude by summarizing what we've learned from this mini-lecture and the previous mini-lecture. When you're designing your experiments, you want to remember three very important considerations. First, you want to randomize your sample selection. The more randomization you have, the merrier you'll be when you analyze your data and draw conclusions because you'll have less bias in your study. And second, you want to ensure replication as much as possible. Again, once you have randomization, you further ensure replication with a sufficiently large sample size. So make sure your sample size is big enough. As I've mentioned previously, we're going to let the math do that for us. And third, you want to control the effects of variables, preferably with blinding techniques and completely randomized experimental design. Beyond that, you're going to try to reduce error as much as possible, all while realizing that there's only so much you can do, that there comes a point where you just have to say, okay, here's the results of the study, and it potentially has this much error in it, so please keep that in mind. That's just the way it is in an imperfect world. And that's the perfect ending to this mini-lecture. I hope you found it helpful. You can find more mini-lectures for this and other courses at AspireMountainAcademy.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.